This is Podcasting Seeds, the podcasting guide for faith leaders and churches. I'm David Kelso, and you're listening to the narrated articles from my email newsletter of the same name. Today's topic, the best podcast hosting services for churches. If you're a church or faith leader looking to podcast, you need a hosting service. Technically, you don't need a hosting service, but have you ever tried leaving someone a message without paper and pen? Maybe you wrote with soap on the mirror or ketchup on a plate. You found a way, just a messier way. As pen and paper are an essential tool for written communication, hosting services are essential for podcasting. If you know coding language and RSS standards, you could write and maintain the RSS feed yourself. However, hosting services provide everything you need as a church or faith leader to podcast. At the core, these services provide a user-friendly interface for uploading your content and then spit out a robot-friendly RSS feed for distribution, getting back vital hours in your week. Today, I'm going to briefly showcase 9 hosting services across the spectrum of investment and features. This is not an exhaustive list of podcast hosting services, but rather options that work best for churches. General considerations for hosting services. First, let's cover a bit more about what a hosting service actually does for you. The core of every hosting service is the creation and management of an RSS feed for you. You are still in control of all of your content. The hosting service just helps you serve up your audio to people to listen on platforms like Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. This is beneficial in several ways. It speeds up the upload process with automation, offloads traffic from your own website so it doesn't crash, and gives high-quality analytics even down to the location of listeners, anonymously, of course. Beyond the RSS feed, hosting services offer a slew of bonus features to try and draw people in. This includes websites, audiograms, dynamic show notes, team members, multiple feeds, guest bookings, memberships, videos, private feeds, and more. As you can imagine, you can get lost in the comparison charts between services. You really need to know your goals for your podcast so you don't overpay for features you don't need. My purpose here is to not give you an exhaustive list, but to highlight a few hosting services I feel would be a good fit for a church or faith leader. Let's get started. First category, feature-rich hosting services. Number 1, Captivate.fm. This is the hosting service I currently use. The reason I chose it a few years ago is because they allow for multiple podcast RSS feeds to be created for the same monthly price. There is a monthly cap on downloads across all shows. However, it is not a hard ceiling, and if you go over once or twice, they don't force you up to the next tier, but you will probably get an invitation. Captivate is great for churches who want to try other spiritual development podcasts beyond their sermon. In the 3 years I've used Captivate, they have continually built more features to benefit their users. Since I started, they've added dynamic show notes, private feeds, premium feeds, dynamic insertion, free access to their entire academy on podcasting, and lots more. You can get a 7-day free trial to check out everything for yourself by using my link. Disclaimer, I am an affiliate for Captivate, so if you do use it, it does help support me. Thank you. They do have a 25% discount for nonprofits as well. Number 2, Subsplash. Subsplash is not a podcast hosting service at its core, but a one-stop shop for churches with a digital presence. They offer websites, giving tools, live streaming, event management, small group management, and more. With their media hosting, they can also create an RSS feed for your website. It's not very public on their website, but it feels more like a bonus feature requested by a few users. Check the link in the show notes for their knowledge-based article about podcasting with them. However, if you're looking to take the digital streets by storm, Subsplash is probably a great option for churches to try. Subsplash is built and priced for churches, so no additional discounts. Next category, dynamic hosting services. Number 1, RSS.com. RSS is a new player in the hosting field, at least to me, but I've heard good reviews about them. They have a $5 a month plan for nonprofits, which is nice. That gets you a website, embeddable player, analytics, simple social promos, audio to video conversion, episode transcripts, and direct customer support. Pretty much no limit on episode length, number of episodes, or number of downloads, unlike other services. Pretty good bang for your buck, in my opinion. Note, you do have to contact them directly to get the nonprofit organization plan. Number 2, Libsyn. Libsyn is one of the oldest podcast hosting services that I'm aware of. It started out with them but when I first got into podcasting, but moved on because of a clunky interface that looked like it was still stuck in the 90s. However, others have told me it has been updated. They have a $5 a month plan with a website, embeddable player, analytics, simple social promos, and built-in recording. Libsyn's gotcha is audio file sizes. They only allow 3 hours of content uploaded each month at that price, so if your pastor goes long consistently, might not be the best choice. Number 3, sermonaudio.com. I really want to like this site, but I can't. It looks how Libsyn used to look and is overpriced compared to other options at $50 a month, plus a one-time startup fee of $150. The only reason I'm including it, though, is they do live broadcasting and have a local church finder. I haven't used it personally, but maybe I'll try and get a demo and make a video on it in the future. And our final category, free hosting services. Number 1, Spotify for Podcasters, formerly known as Anchor. Spotify for Podcasters is where many people start podcasting. Spotify is banking a lot on user-generated content for ad revenue, similar to YouTube's model. From audio recording and editing to monetization, it's actually become a pretty decent option. It's also the only way to get a video podcast on Spotify as of writing this. They only have a free plan, so no discounts. Number 2, Acast. Acast was who I went to after Libsyn. They offered a much friendlier user interface. Currently, Acast's free plan also includes unlimited downloads and storage, an embeddable player, analytics, and even remote recording powered by Podcastle. The only reason I left Acast was because I was building more medium-sized podcasts for churches. No nonprofit discounts that I can find on their website if you do decide to go to a paid plan. And number 3, Podbean. Their free plan is pretty basic and it's metered, meaning you only get 5 gigabits of storage a month and a capped number of downloads. If you're just doing a sermon podcast, I doubt you'd reach that capacity each month though. Unless an Asbury-type revival hits, then you might need to increase your plan, which you can do as they offer lots of other features on their paid plans, including live streaming your show. No extra discounts on paid plans for nonprofits that I can find. So there you have it. Those are my recommendations for podcast hosting services for churches. Before we finish, a note on switching hosting services. If you start with one service and want to switch, it's actually a relatively easy process. Most have a way to ingest the RSS feed and redirect the old URL to the new one. You'll lose historical analytics, but your feed and subscribers will be unaffected. Your people are hungry for the word, so don't get hung up on a hosting service. What podcast hosting service do you use? Is there one that I missed? Let me know by reaching out to me on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or email, whichever you prefer. And if you'd like more coaching like this, plus episode ideas, Jesus-centered podcast recs, and industry news actually relevant to you, then sign up for my email newsletter, Podcasting Seeds. Get all that a week ahead of time, including a private podcast feed for narrations like this. My goal is to help you make Christ known and cultivate the spiritual development of your community with podcasts. Sign up today and get my free guide to being a great podcast guest along with some other goodies. Link in the show notes. Thanks for listening.